Hello, friends. This is Dave Hurwitz, executive editor at ClassicsToday.com. One of my viewers, one of you lovely people, very, very kindly sent me a link to a documentary about Paavo Järvi and the Deutsche Kammerphilharmonie Bremen doing their Haydn London Symphony cycle, which they're working on. We've reviewed one of them, and another one has come out, which I will talk about anon shortly. The documentary was basically surrounding their recording Haydn's 93rd Symphony. They're doing the 12 London symphonies. And it was very interesting, actually. You know, they're a wonderful group, and Järvi's a terrific conductor. The documentary is very well made. But it was fascinating to me for what it did and did not say about the music. Or tried to say and didn't show, or let me just take you through it, and then if you want to watch it on your own, you can. I'd be curious to get your impression of it. You know, it's one of those things where, it talks about how wonderful the orchestra is and where they rehearse and what they do, and they interview Järvi, and he's speaking in English for those of you who are English speakers and worried about that. It's all translated into English, and they sound like a lovely group of people. I mean, they really do. I've always admired them. I mean, their Beethoven cycle with Järvi is probably the best ever for, smaller forces in the period instrument mode. They play with modern strings and vibrato, I might add, but also with, natural horns and trumpets and wooden flutes, and they do the period instrument thing, and they really, I mean, they're just a superb group of musicians. But when they're talking about Haydn, this is what fascinated me. Järvi, let's put it this way: he's a little bit po-faced, I think is the word. He sits there and he says, well, of course, Haydn is extremely humorous, and if you don't have a sense of humor, you will never understand Haydn. The guy never smiles, or maybe his version of a smile only goes like this far, I mean, it's fascinating to me that they talk about all this humor, but there's no humor. There's no humor in this thing at all. They are so serious. And I appreciate, we want to appreciate that. I mean, they want to impress us, of course, with the mythos of, these musicians who are, 100% dedicated to their craft, and they're working and slaving on the high altar of great art. And that, I think, overwhelms the message of the music in this particular documentary, because there are two aspects to it. There is the music itself and the recording of the music. And as they show us the recording of the music with the engineer, who is a very close friend of Järvi from like his high school days, and they get along very well, and he tells Järvi what to do, and Järvi does it, and they have a wonderful give and take relationship in making these recordings to try and get the best possible product. And you can see that they're doing that. And again, it's admirable, but the process comes across as 100% mechanical. You don't get to hear any really long clips of music. You only hear little sniglets, and they're repeating things. Oh, take 5, do it 65 times. We'll do it 150 times till it's just perfect. Then we edit it all together. There isn't a shred of what seems to me spontaneity. Now, that's not necessarily how the recordings sound. It isn't. And I don't really care what goes into manufacturing them. I only care about what they sound like, what the finished product sounds like. If the finished product sounds great, I don't care if they recorded it one note at a time. I don't care if AI did it. I don't care. I just want to know how the finished product sounds. But this process is so clinical. Holy mackerel. It's unbelievable. And there is no mention, after Järvi says Haydn is humorous, of humor. We meet the individual players of the orchestra, the principal players. The concertmaster seems like a very nice lady. She smiles. She's pleasant. She seems to be enjoying herself. That's nice. That's really nice. But the rest of them, I mean, most of the rest of them, I mean, they're they're German. Okay, they're very serious. But let me give you some examples. Let me give you some examples that you'll see if you watch the documentary. The bassoon fart. the giant bassoon fart in the slow movement of Symphony 93. Boy, is there an opportunity, first of all, to make something of it, and second of all, to explain to people why it's funny. And just say, call it what it is. They rehearse the fart. I mean, if you've ever seen a fart in rehearsal, it's quite something. And they're trying to get just the right fartaceous sound, but they never tell you what it is or why they're doing it. And I just found it hilarious watching it. Well, Järvi at one point almost says it. He says we wanted a more not so dry a sound, a more wet sound. Okay. And he's sort of, you can see him holding it in. He doesn't want to say the word. And they don't. And the bassoonists who are talking about it going, oh, yeah, it's a great moment for the bassoons. The two bassoons do this. It's very surprising. Well, and more than that, here's an opportunity for Järvi to really impart something about Haydn's humor, because the issue is not just the fart. It's what happens after. When the violins come in with, right? They have that response, and that response is laughter. It's everybody chuckling. The audience going, yeah, da, 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 da. And he could say to the violins, laugh with it. It's a joke. Laugh, ha, ho, he. No mention. No mention of it at all. I mean, to see them do that was actually as funny as the joke itself, if you know what's going on and what they're all sort of like tiptoeing around. I mean, and of course, the fart is not as fartalicious as George Sells. Nobody's is, because he doesn't care whether or not it's a beautiful bassoon sound. He says, it's a fart. Do it. And they do. It's a totally different approach. And I think it's really kind of interesting. So there's that. Then we go to the minuet. The trio of the minuet has he talks about a minuet and it's a courtly dance and this and that and all that stuff. Well, and then it started to speed up a little bit. But this minuet is a very funny minuet. First of all, you've got that wonderful accompaniment. It's dum ba dum ba da dum bum bum ba da 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 dum bum, and underneath it is that chick 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 chick. It's this very, very sort of chicken walk kind of rhythm. It's amusing. It's really amusing. I mean, it sounds amusing. And, you can mention, it's the accompaniment and the melody. And then the trio, which has the fanfares for trumpets, ba-da-da-dum, 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 bum, 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 with those very solemn dun-da-dum, ba-da-dum, da-da-da, And then after the big trumpet fanfare, you get ya da 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 jump jump da 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 jo 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 jo. Is that ach du lieber Augustine. I mean, that's what it is. It's this German dance thing. It's as unminuetish as it's possible to get after this very solemn series of fanfares and quiet, pensive responses. It's a joke. And they talk about the trumpeters. Oh, well, yeah, we get to do these trumpet fanfares with the timpani, and it's never been heard before in a minuet. It's like really amazing and wonderful. But that's not the joke. And then you get to the finale. The finale has, da 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 da, and there's a part for the solo cello, where the orchestra's been going crazy. It's going da 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 da, and then the cello goes da da da. Dun, 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 and the orchestra comes in really loud. Bum, bum, bum. Well, okay, it's a joke, right? It's one of those wonderful moments. Haydn has them all the time in his finales, particularly, where the orchestra seems to forget how the tune goes. And it's trying to figure out where it is. And so, finally you just have this one cello who's plugging along, oblivious to what else is happening. And they talk about, she played it perfectly. And she talks about it. She plays, it's a solo. And all of a sudden I'm solo. But it's a joke. It's humorous. And there's no laughter there. None. Zippo. Zero. I mean, it blew my mind. It really did. I mean, all these opportunities to try and explain and show how wonderful the music is and how unique the music is and how special Haydn's sense of humor is. And they're showing those moments, but they're not doing anything about them, not explaining, not talking, not smiling, not laughing, not having any fun. I mean, it's all so earnest. Oh my God. And then towards the end of it, it's about 50 minutes long. There's an extended clip of Järvi, who actually recorded the Haydn London symphonies, they tell us, for Melodia. But when he left Estonia, he was considered, a traitor to the Soviet Union, and they destroyed those recordings. But all that survives is a video of him doing Symphony Number 104, the London Symphony. And there he is. He talks about Haydn a little bit, Niemi does, Big Daddy Järvi talks about it. And then, he plays, so you see him playing some of the finale. And dare I say it, but is there a spontaneity, an excitement, an exuberance to the music making that we do not see in Järvi Jr.'s bits? You can take a look and tell me what you think. Maybe it's just because it's not a rehearsal, it's a performance. And so you see just a longer clip of him actually doing the music. But that's the point here, isn't it? It's not just to talk about how wonderful they are. Well, maybe the point is just to talk about how wonderful they are. But, they're trying to put the focus on Haydn, but it's not. The focus is really about the orchestra, the artists, and how phenomenal they are. Not so much about Haydn's music. Despite everything that they say. They say all the right things. Haydn was a genius. Each symphony is a gem. It's all wonderful. It's just fabulous. But the fabulosity of it all does not come through the actual work of putting together these pieces for recording. And it should. They should be having a little fun. There should be some laughter. There should be some smiles all around. There ought to be some discussion of how Haydn is special, what makes him different from Mozart and Beethoven. They say that. Again, they say all the things. But, there was such an opportunity to demonstrate it. And they don't. And they didn't. And I don't know why they didn't, because it would have been so easy to do that. I'm looking forward to hearing the recording of Symphony Number 93. I assume it'll be in the next batch, because the one that the volume 2 has 94, 95, 98, and 99. And also, I add one little quibbly detail. Järvi talks about how the orchestra is the right size to play Haydn, because he only had an orchestra of 30 to 40 people. That's not true. And that's not true for the London symphonies. For the first set of London symphonies, he had an orchestra that was about 45 people. And for the second set of London symphonies, the ones that begin with number 98, and 98 through 104, right? 98, 99, 100, 101, 102, 103, 104, 107, 99, pardon me. But whatever one, the last 6 of them, he had over 60, which is essentially a full symphony orchestra, that we would understand it. And so for them to be doing it with a teensy reduced forces effectively, is not authentic performance practice. I'm sorry to say. The performances may be wonderful. I mean, I'm not saying that they can't sound great, but just for accuracy's sake, Haydn had a large orchestra, and we know that he preferred, as did everybody in those days, the biggest orchestra he could get his hands on, always. So, I don't want to hear any of this, well, we're a chamber orchestra, therefore we're the right size for the music. That's just bullshit. And there's so much of that floating around, isn't there? Anyway, Järvi has a wonderful collaborative relationship with the orchestra. You can see that. You see that they get along splendidly. You can see that they're a wonderful group. They rehearse in this school, and a few miles from the center of the city of Bremen, and kids get to come and watch the rehearsals apparently, and it's supposed to be just a wonderful thing. They really operate as an ensemble that serves its community. They are only 25% subsidized. They are 75%. They have their own private sources of funding, which is wonderful. I hope that they're financially sound. I mean, you learn these very interesting things about how they operate and who they are and what they do. And I think all that's really, really interesting, and I'm glad to know it. But I'd really like to see that their dedication, I mean, they talk about how they have this passion for Haydn and they're just full of fire and steam and smoke and, you know, well, good. Well, good, but let's hear about the music. I always come back to that when I see these things. Anyway, you can have a look at it and you can tell me what you think about it. I found it very interesting, beautifully made, but rather glum. And there was no point in being glum. Goodness gracious, it's Haydn we're talking about here. So keep on listening, friends. Thanks for joining me. Take care.